Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We're right on the precipice of the holiday. Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Hilbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans because that's who we are and that is who we care about.
Yeah, so I like this holiday because I don't have to buy gifts for anyone.
It's one of my favorite holidays of the year. Number one, the food. You know, love turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, all that kind of stuff that goes with it. I like being able to just relax that day watching football. You know, it's been a tradition for as long as I can remember in my life to watch the Detroit Lions play on Thanksgiving, followed by the Dallas Cowboys, you know, in the afternoon. So the Lions always had the 12:30 games. Cowboys were on in that 4 o'clock hour block. So that was always family tradition for me. And then in recent years, my wife, my daughter, her now husband, you know, we go to Tennessee. We get a cabin. We spend 5 or 6 days there. You know, have the Thanksgiving meal there. You know, get to do some different restaurants during the week. So it's just really that one time a year that, you know, I look forward to. It's a chance to get away. It's a chance to relax, and in an area that I absolutely love. You know, there.
Oh, yeah.
Tennessee. What about you? What are you going to do? What's your plans?
So I'm going to have a little bit of an altered Thanksgiving, but it's going to be for the better ultimately. So my brother and his wife typically host Thanksgiving. My brother's got an affinity for cooking turkeys. He always finds some sort of recipe on the internet where he like wraps it in bacon or something, you know. And he does a very good job at it. But his wife is a fantastic cook, and for some reason, he is completely averse to leftovers, so he won't eat stuff like reheated. So she always brings me their leftovers from dinner, and it really works out to my advantage. But they have another family obligation, and that's going to be on Thursday night. So we're not actually doing Thanksgiving with my family on Thursday. We're going to do it on Friday. So I may be missing opening night of Winterfest. By the way, I know I'm a bad podcast.
You can go Saturday.
I'll go Saturday, and heck, I might make it for the parade for all I know. But so Erin, my girlfriend, works in the healthcare system. She actually has to work Thanksgiving, but she's off at like 2 or 2:30. And we're going to have Thanksgiving with her family on Thursday night. So I'll probably spend the day. I'm going to put up Christmas lights that day. I know that that's part of my plan. I always have fun with that because I put it on like the Apple HomeKit system, so it automatically turns on when the sun goes up and turns off when, you know, at night or whatever, you know. So I'll do that, and then I'll go over there. I have to work on Friday, so that's going to be like a normal day for me. And then go over to my brother's house Friday night. Maybe catch the end of Winterfest. I don't know. Probably not though. And then Saturday I'm going to go to Winterfest.
Sounds like a great week for you. Sunday, I'll be at the Bengals game. I'll come back from Tennessee that morning and you know, work the Bengals game. My 20th season there as part of the game day PR staff. But that always seems to be the case every year. The Bengals play that Sunday at home, and it's usually against the Steelers. So you know, I'd love to have that one extra day there in Tennessee, but you know, we get up early, we go back. One of the things I look forward to on the way down is I get 2 stops at Buc-ee's, the one in Richmond, Kentucky, and the one, you know, in Sevierville, just as you get in off of exit 407 there. And then I hit it twice again on the way back. So the Buc-ee's trips are, you know, also part of what makes, you know, this week so special for me.
Well, now you've cracked the code. It's just the Buc-ee's. Yeah, it's
the cabin life's nice too. I mean, I love that, you know, just relaxing in a cabin, and you know, sometimes there's bears around the, you know, because it's in a wooded area where we're at, but I love that. And there's some great restaurants there, you know, in the Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg area. Chubby's restaurant, you know, love that. Boss Hogs, you know, if you like, you know, sausage and pulled pork, I mean, it's phenomenal. And there's Loco Burro in Gatlinburg is a great Mexican restaurant.
I've eaten there twice on your recommendation.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just you know, just a nice week, and but to be able to spend that that time too with my wife, my daughter, her husband. Their dog Willow is making the trip with us, so
Oh my gosh.
we're just really looking forward to just having that time together, and just enjoying the week, and the Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah, it's fun. I don't know if I ever told the story on the show, but I remember you recommended one of the first times we me and Aaron went down was the Burro Loco, and
Loco Burrow, get the
was
name
it
right.
the Loco Burro? That's not proper
Loco
Spanish, I
Burrow.
don't think. But anyway, and I remember texting you while I was on the strip saying, "What was the name of that restaurant?" You told me, so I put it into like Google Maps, and it said like it's right here. Like we're looking all around trying to find it. And it turns out we were standing in front of it, but the sign was like above us, so we couldn't see it because
Yeah,
of
it
the
signs like
awning.
150 feet up in the air, and then you have to go up these steps and that to it. One of the things I want to do this year at Loco Burrow is I want to ride the mechanical bull.
I've never seen that operational. It's been deflated every time I've gone.
Yeah, it was operational when I went last year. Didn't do it, wanted to, but I was still battling, and I still am a little bit. But I had like that pinched nerve issue, and I thought it might aggravate that, and I didn't want to have that pain in my arm again, so I chose not to. But this year, if it's operational, I want to do the mechanical bull, and if I get video of it, we'll put it on the show.
I've ridden one mechanical bull is at Bobby Mackey's Music World in Wilder, Kentucky. And
I did
that
the one
didn't
at
go
Mickey
well.
Gilley's in Texas.
Really?
The original Mickey Gilley's. Yes, that was fun. Not as good as a lot of the Texans there that where I got bucked off in like 4 seconds, but yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I wish I was better at riding bulls, but I've got exactly one experience doing so. But let's talk about, we listed a lot of stuff like kind of in our thing that we're thankful for in our personal lives and so on. Lots to be thankful for. But people are here for Kings Island stuff. So particularly, what are some Kings Island things that you're thankful for?
Well, I mean, for me, I think I'm as a guest this year very thankful, that I had the dining plan, all season dining, and the all season drinks. I visited 31 times as of this recording. I had an even 50 meals. I've had 103, drinks, and if you just do the math on, the savings there, that I've had. So I'm very thankful that I was able to add those to my season pass. It just added tremendous value for me and really enhanced the guest experience for me. I was able to, try some things, maybe that I wouldn't have normally, wanted to try with the dining plan.
Yeah, like the shrimp po' boy.
Yep.
I've had that like 3 times now. It's so good. I wonder if that'll, they released a lot of the menu for Winterfest. Maybe we'll save that for the next episode, the day of Winterfest, but it looks like there's a lot of really cool options, and a lot of it's on the dining plan, including your meatloaf sandwich, by the way.
I saw that.
The meatloaf burger is going to be back. And
Thankful
it's on
for that
plan.
too. Thankful for that
Yeah.
too.
So the thing I'm most thankful for, and I was thinking about this because we can go back. We did this, I think, with Attractions Group podcast one year, and it was like, well, I'm thankful for the racer, I'm thankful for the beast, but I'm trying to go a little bit deeper as far as like, because none of that stuff is stuff that I own. Like I'm thankful that I have access to it and so on. But I think that the most thankful thing I am for, as far as Kings Island is concerned, is that I am able to surround myself that people that both tolerate and embrace the whole like going there all the time thing.
Yes,
I
that's
kind of
important. That's
well,
important, and I have the same thing. Where my wife supports, me buying a pass and going to the park. I she had that before I started. I worked there for 17 seasons, but before that, I had the season pass. So I get exactly what you're saying there. That you got to have people that are going to support your interest in wanting to go there as often as you do, Ryan, or to have you talking about it as often as you do too.
yeah, they tell me to shut up all the time about it. I'm kidding. They don't tell me that.
Yeah, but I'm thankful too for the just the Kings Island friendships that I
Oh
was
yeah.
able to develop over the years. I'm going back to my days as a season pass holder, in the 80s, and still friends with a lot of those people today. A lot of them, either worked at the park, back then, or now pass holders too.
Hmm.
People that work at Kings Island to this day that I worked with, former coworkers, so I'm just very, um, thankful, for those relationships that I was able to cultivate, develop, and that's important to me. And I think, that could be number one is just all those friendships. A lot of the guests, that I got to know over the years, the coaster enthusiast. Just thankful for all those relationships, with all of, those people. Um, I think about that every day, and it just, without that camaraderie, it's probably the ride wouldn't have been as fun for me, that I've had there at Kings Island.
Yeah. And I think about this a lot. Like most of my friends that I have now, I met through the park in some way. I met my girlfriend through the park. If that's where your social life is, that's kind of what's going to happen. So you find like-minded people, you know, and you never find people in your group that are like, I don't feel like going there. I've been there already this year. Those people aren't your friends anymore at a certain point.
What else you thankful for, Ryan?
I'm thankful that we've been able to have this incredible success with Tower Topics.
Yes, that was next on my list. Is thankful for Tower Topics. The opportunity to do this. I remember, my final couple years there. You and I had talked about, when the day comes that I leave Kings Island, we'll start a podcast about Kings Island. You never thought that day was going to come. I kept telling you it's going to be sooner than you think.
Yeah.
And we started the Attractions Group podcast as a way to get our feet wet, doing podcasts, but knowing that at some point, we were going to be able to launch a Kings Island podcast. For you, you probably thought it was, going to be longer down the line before we got to that. But I remember we were at the Reds game in the spring. It was like late April, and I said,
Hmm.
get a logo ready, and start working on that kind of stuff. And you probably were like, well, still, he's not going anywhere. And you even kind of referenced that. Well, when are you going to leave? But I think just to be able to transition into this, it was something that, I've wanted to do. I wanted to have a different chapter, to my Kings Island association. We had the years as a season pass holder, riding the racer, working there, and now it's kind of on that, journalistic, um, road now. Doing this podcast and with Theme Parks by Don, the website there, and but just very thankful for the opportunity to do this with you. I think we balance each other well with this podcast. We
Hmm.
both don't share the same opinions on a lot of the different things. I think that's why it works out well too. If we agreed with everything that we were just talking about, it wouldn't be as interesting for our audience. But yeah, I mean, this podcast is certainly on that list of things that I'm thankful for, because it's allowed us, me in particular, it's a way to stay connected with the Kings Island, fans is through this podcast. So it's just like the next chapter.
Yeah, there's a lot of upside to it for us. And now that I mean, I guess it's no secret we haven't really done Attractions Group in a couple weeks now, so we're still fleshing out what the future of that podcast is going to be.
Yeah, well,
There's a
let's
good.
clarify real quick on what happened there. For those that don't know, I had, a stroke that took the vision from my left eye at the end of August. It was on August 30th, and um, just every week, since then, I've either been having some kind of a, procedure, whether it's surgery or it's a laser procedure or it's a follow up. I've been at the Cincinnati Eye Institute, so often every week that I actually get mail there, or so it seems. But that just takes so much time, and it's cut into being able to put in the work that Attractions Group podcast, required to do, lining up the guest, making sure that we're asking them, the kind of questions and that they get in the things they want to talk about too. Just lining all of those kind of things up, putting together the pick six, going through the hundreds of news stories that are out there every week, out in the industry and just, narrowing that down to 6. So the time, just hasn't been there to do that and this, to the level that we wanted to with the attractions group. I just haven't been able to put that time in to round up the guests. We have a lot of guests that want to come on. There's a waiting list. We just got to get back around to it. But, Tuesdays, the day that we, put a lot of that work together, is when I've had a lot of these procedures, and then we get to Wednesday, and, we're doing this. So, more to come about the Attractions Group podcast. We'll the future of that will be determined, and, in the weeks ahead, but a lot of exciting things in store for Tower Topics, so we're just scratching the surface on what this is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the other part of it that you didn't include is like, obviously, like your ocular problem and stuff was an issue, and that cut into the time. But also, Tower Topics has become a much bigger commitment over the past month or so, launching the memberships, that extra content.
Taking your stories, just adding that to the
Yeah,
podcast. I mean, that, going through those, picking out the 3, and it's hard to choose those 3 every week that we want
yeah,
to use. The listener questions. You're right. I mean, and the podcast, we started out, these were, 12 to 15 minutes long, and now they're 40, 50 minutes long, and we just get into some deep discussions. And I remember, we're over 200 episodes that we've done now, in, just over a year. And I remember we first started this, everyone, was saying that, there's no way that they're going to be able to do 3 episodes a week and sustain that and have something to talk about. They thought maybe every other week do one, like other people do. But I felt, with the things about Kings Island that, we both know, the history, the different things that are coming up, the different special, they have enough different events, enough different shows, enough different food things. There's always something to talk about with Kings Island. There's no shortage of things that we can tell stories about. So doing 3 a week was not going to be a problem for you and I. And we could probably go, some, Monday through Friday, and drop an episode and still have, fresh content every single week. But it is a commitment. A lot of time goes into it, and, trying to piece all that together and going through the stories and, formatting it, and, you and I going back and forth about, what we want those 3 to be when we record each week. It's, it's work. I mean, it's fun work, but it's work.
I think that the Tower Topics, I've always felt like Tower Topics is more fun than Attractions Group, no matter what guests we had on Attractions Group, because it's always so natural. It's like a conversation. I always felt like a journalist on Attractions Group, and you ask a question, I ask a question, you ask a question. We got to get them out before 7:45 because they got another appointment. Well, with this, it's just like, yeah, well, let's talk about the tumble bug, whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, it was, easier because, I've grown up with it, started going there in 1972. So there's not really the research involved, that there
Yeah,
was for the Attractions Group. It's just, just talking from memory, and that was one of the things when I had the eye issue where, reading's a little bit of a problem. I don't know, if you listen to these episodes, that Ryan's the one that's reading the majority of the your Kings Island stories. He'll read the majority, of the questions now, and it's, because it's just something that I can't do well enough at this time, with the eye issue. But I'm not reliant on that with Tower Topics because I know the subject, Kings Island.
yeah.
I have an encyclopedic, memory of that place. I can tell the story. You name the attraction, I can tell the backstory of it. How it got started. What it cost, when it opened. All those different things. The Beast. I can tell that story. About building it in house, the racer. And there's just so many things about it. Like you said, use the word, it comes natural to us. And it's just a conversation. And I think that does make this, a lot of fun for us because it's just, no different than you and I sitting down at Coney Barbecue having a meal and just chatting about the park.
That's what this always felt like. And, honestly, it's like there certainly have been days when it's like I get off work, I'm exhausted, and it's our recording day, and I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do this. But you know, when it comes to just the Tower Topic stuff, especially, it hasn't really felt that same way. Not that I was ever getting burnt out on AGP, but I'm saying like that was definitely felt a lot more like work than this does. And I think that the audience kind of read into it because with this, it's like, every week is just way, way, way more people. While Attractions Group, you could follow the map. If we have a Kings Island episode, it's people, it's the Tower Topics crowd. If we have Silver Dollar City on, we're getting Branson, Missouri, and it was always kind of fragmented with that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you had to be interested in the park that we had on for Attractions Group to really, grow. It was more universal because it had, those different parks and things on it. But this one has its, that niche. It has its fan base, and if you and I were going to do a baseball show out of Cincinnati, I think it'd make more sense for you and I to do a Cincinnati Reds show because we'd have a built-in audience for it. Where if we were talking, had somebody from the Houston Astros on one night, you know, those that are following us, wouldn't have as much interest in that. And it works the same way with the Attractions Group podcast. I mean, they're interested when we had, Dennis Spiegel on because he's got that local connection. But if we did have, a park that was, on the other side of the country, it was only, the people from that part of the country, for the most part, was 80% of the listenership that night. And, that makes it from your point of view where you're like, oh, I got to do this again tonight. Me, I'm all about it. So it didn't really matter as much, but for you, it did, where this is just so natural for us. You've kind of grown up with Kings Island in a lot of ways now. It's, been a big part of your life. It's been that way for me and for a lot of our audience. Kings Island is life. The rest is just details. And I think that's what makes this such a, fun thing for us, and, why our audience, and we all feel like we're one big family here, with these episodes.
Yeah. And the cool part is uh we've always taken that approach, and we've preached this before, by Kings Island fans, for Kings Island fans, that sort of thing, where we're harsh when we need to be, we praise them when we feel as though it's warranted.
Yeah, well, that was going to be important for us, getting started with this, where I think we were both in alignment on the same page that neither one of us could be bought by the park. We weren't going to have them dictate to us, what we could, what we couldn't talk about, just so we could be on, a media day invite list. That it was going to be independent, 100% of the park. We were going to be fair, with our assessments, talking about the experiences and that. And if something was really good, we say it's really good. If something, falls a little bit short, we say it falls a little bit short. We don't feel like, we have to kind of draw the line or we're not going to be on this media invite list. And I think that gives us a lot more credibility with our audience because they know it is genuine. They know it is authentic with what we're talking about, and that we are Kings Island fans doing this show for Kings Island fans.
Yeah. And again, they did the content creator policy and all that stuff. And I feel like the sentiment really is, if somebody goes to a Six Flags park that's a YouTuber or something, we know they're going to say something positive because otherwise they're not going to be invited back. And that's in writing now,
Yeah, it's in writing, and you just don't have the credibility if that's the way, you have to go about it with your content that you're creating. Your audience is more important, credibility with them and having the trust of your audience and what you're saying, far more important, than that invite to any kind of a media day event that a park might have. You can still go to the park. You can still do those same kind of stories for the most part. You just might not be the first one to ride something, but is that worth your credibility with your audience? I don't think so. I don't think you think so. But for some, that matters, and they're always going to toe that line. But, I think this show, it's something that we want to remind everybody every single week at the top of the show that it is for you. We're doing it for Kings Island fans. That's who we serve. That's who we report to.
Yeah. And we're talking about things we're grateful for. And I would say that the thing I'm most grateful for in this moment is our Tower Topics members. So I want to thank you guys all for supporting the show. And I want to give a shout out to our Prestige members. So Jacob Fix, Miss Mandy 1983, Lily Mac 21, sorry, Lil Mac 21. Brian Hauser, Logan Lipper, 330T, and Aaron Bort. Thank you for supporting Tower Topics at the highest tier, which is the prestige level. If you'd like to become involved with Tower Topics, a very good way is to become a member. There's a link in the description. Members get early access to videos, exclusive live streams, exclusive content, and there might even be some free stuff at certain tiers. So click the link in the description if you're interested. And even if you aren't, thank you for just watching. We really are thankful for you.
And now we also, if you're watching on YouTube, what Kings Island related are you thankful for? Leave it in the comments. Let us know. And, we want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. And speaking of thoughts, we'll be right back with your stories. Today's story is from Kevin D. from Lima, Ohio. He said, "Hi, everyone. I love this podcast. My Kings Island story is a mix of joy and sorrow. On Father's Day in 1999, my dad, mom, brother, and I spent an amazing day at the park. We rode the Beast, the Racer, and King Cobra and enjoyed ribs at the Wings restaurant. It was one of those perfect days you never forget. But on the way home, everything changed. My dad started feeling unwell and began sweating heavily. We pulled over on the side of the expressway, and just like that, he was gone. Every Father's Day, I think back to the day at Kings Island. The last memory I have with my dad is a bittersweet reminder of a day filled with love, laughter, and the suddenness of loss. I'll never forget it." Whoa, that's a little heavy.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, Don and I have both lost our fathers.
Mine was on Father's Day too. I was coming back from Walt Disney World, and I spoke to him on the phone as I was crossing into the Georgia, over the state line there from Florida into Georgia. I had a conversation and told him Happy Father's Day. See you tomorrow. And got home around 11:30 at night. A message from my brother saying something had happened to my dad. He'd been in the hospital, and just like so, every time I think about Disney World, that kind of comes to mind that I was coming back from that. When I learned that my father had passed, but yeah, I mean that's something you're certainly, every time you hear Kings Island, you're going to remember that. Appreciate you sharing our story. Glad that your memories of your last day with your dad were good ones. That you had fun. It wasn't just you. You had your brother and your mom. You were all together. So I think that. But appreciate you sharing that story with us.
Yeah. Hopefully you can instill, I mean, this is 1999, so I assume that there was, a time for healing, but hopefully you can still enjoy Kings Island and think of it as a positive thing as opposed to something that took somebody away from you. That's would not be a healthy way to look at it, but it would be understandable if you did. But thank you so
I
much.
understand that, where they say it, it's kind of a, some joy there and some sadness with it, when they think about their Kings Island story. And and for that to happen on Father's Day, I mean, you're certainly going to remember that every Father's Day, where you were, when you lost your father, like I do. I was driving back from Florida, and so anytime I think of Florida, I think of Walt Disney World. I think of my dad.
Yeah. But if you've got a story to share, it doesn't have to be kind of a bummer like this one. So my condolences, by the way, Kevin. It's been 20-something odd year, 25 years or so, but it probably doesn't get that much easier, really. As somebody that lost my dad, 13 years ago, it's like there are those moments where it's just kind of like I wish they were here, But if you want to share your stories, send them to Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com. If you've got a dramatic story like this or a happy story, was it your first place of work? Did you meet your first wife there or something, send them to
First ever
Don.
roller coaster ride.
First ever roller coaster ride. We'd love to hear them, and maybe we'll read them on the show. That Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com. So Don, I'm thankful for t-shirts. Tell me about the t-shirts.
Tower Topics t-shirts. If you're a big fan of the show, you can get a Tower Topics t-shirt. Comes in a Carolina blue, just $22. Includes shipping. If you're interested in one, send us a direct message on our X, which is Tower_Topics, or you can drop an email at Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com, and we'll send you the QR code once the transaction goes through. $22 again, include shipping, whatever size you need. Just takes a matter of days to get your shirt. You'll love it. Very comfortable shirt. And, we're seeing, quite a few of these, when we're out and about now.
Absolutely. Yeah. We appreciate seeing them around. All right. We'll be right back with the listener questions. Don, what's the first listener question?
First listener question comes from friend of the show, Surveillance. He says, how many more seasons will Invertigo last? Thanks, guys.
Until they find something else to replace it. I don't think that it's at risk of going anywhere because it got that extra train from Stinger at Dorney.
Yeah, I mean it's a popular ride still. It's a ride that, for the most part, it's pretty reliable for Kings Island. So I think it'll still be there for several more years until, like Ryan said, that there's something that would be the best fit for it would be in that space. At which time, I don't think that would be the only ride to go. I think we'd also see Congo Falls, leaving at that time if that were going to be the case. But hopefully that's not for several more years.
Yeah, Congo, it doesn't seem like it gets really much ridership at all. So I think that that is far more at risk as far as like just removing a ride. Because they do have the log flume still in Whitewater Canyon. So it's not like Carowinds when they removed their water ride. They just didn't have a water ride until their record-breaking one that they're adding in
Right.
2026. But Don and I have talked about this. There's always the possibility, because they'd be crazy not to think about it at some point, where they remove Invertigo, Congo Falls, and maybe Timberwolf and put a major coaster right there in the front of the park to define the skyline.
That would be what I think would happen down the road, but I think that's several years off.
Right, but I'm saying that would be the thing that dooms Invertigo.
That would end it. I like Invertigo.
I love it. I'll be disappointed. I was thinking about it, and it's like if they had to remove one ride, like one coaster, what would it be? And I can't really put my finger on one that's like I don't care about that one. Because you look at the normal culprits. You got
now you have to. Okay, if you do have to sacrifice one, which one would it be, Ryan?
That's the thing. I can't think of it because
well, just say you have to. You have to. You're forced
to. Little Bill's giggle coaster, or whatever they call it now.
Okay.
No, well, okay, that's a cop-out answer. That's the thing. I was thinking about this, and I don't have an answer because I love Invertigo. I love Invertigo more than the next person because I think it's super thrilling. I know it gives some people headaches and stuff. I don't have that effect. The Bat, I absolutely love, and I think it would be devastating when they finally punt on that one, even though they've had a lot of problems with it and they've always rebounded it. And the other one that's kind of getting up there in age is Adventure Express. And Adventure Express has got like a renewed life. It's awesome. I don't know which one I'd pick. Those are the most common. Those are the most likely next ones to go, though, right?
Right.
I mean, they're the oldest, and you got two eras in old Vekoma. What about you? Can you think of one? Like,
if I had to make the call to get rid of one, just because we have to get rid of one, not because it's problem plagued or anything like that, I would go with Backlot Stunt Coaster.
Okay.
I think that part of the park, having that land to work with, you could put in a new roller coaster in that spot that, might be a little bit more thrilling, or, maybe a little more visually pleasing than Backlot Stunt Coaster is. So that would be nothing against the ride. We're just saying that it's something that I would have to make that decision. All right, Don, you have to make one ride, go away. We're getting rid of one. You have to make that call. That would be the one I would pick just because of the real estate and what you could do in that area. Not
Let
just put
me
a
ask,
roller coaster in there.
so
You can put a
so
lot of different things in there too. A lot of flat rides, other things.
right. I like your
Prime space.
answer. The reason why I was thinking of those three was because they're the most like, because Backlot is much newer than those. Although it is like 20 years old now, you feel old yet. But so with back, let me float this idea at you. How would you feel if they removed Backlot and replaced it with that Zamperla family coaster? Do you think that would be an upgrade or a downgrade, or would it be just a different use of
I would
passion?
call it an upgrade if that's what they went with. Or there's an Intamin model that's out there too. That's a family thrill coaster.
Mm,
Either one of those, I think, um, would be upgrades over Backlot Stunt Coaster. Now it's a good ride. Like I said, don't think I don't like the ride. I do like the ride. We're just saying I'm forced to get rid of one. That's what I'd have to. If I had to make that decision, that's the one I'm picking.
yeah, if I had to choose one, I think I never even thought about that because I was thinking about like if I was in the room and it was like one of these old rides that's like a little tougher to maintain and stuff has to go. And we're talking about 30-year-old rides at this point, like 30 or 40-year-old rides in some cases. Um, which one is it? And it would be very tough to choose between the three that I put out there. But yeah, Backlot would be a really good candidate for that. And again, it's like you ride it and it is fun and it does serve a purpose, but the purpose it was supposed to serve was supposed to be this like deeply themed experience. And it was like kind of that for a little bit. And now it's really not that. It's a great transitional ride, but it's ugly, and it took over a spot of land that was supposed to be kind of serene.
Oh, it was the most beautiful part of the park. Right behind the Eiffel Tower. You had the white picket fence, the antique cars there. I mean, that was just stunning looking.
The Brady
So
Bunch would occasionally run through, but
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's uh, I just think that would be the one. Again, don't say Don doesn't like Backlot Stunt Coaster because I love the ride. It just I was forced to pick one.
um, yeah. But the question was, how many more seasons for Invertigo? I would say less than 10. That's what I would put my money on. I think it'll at the end of its service life in 10 years.
It's
So
25 years old, so it came in what?
99.
Yeah, so I'd give it 5 or 6 more years for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm factoring
Not
in that
sure. I
that
can't say for sure because you never say for sure anymore. You just never know
right.
what they're going to remove.
Well,
Um, but
if it
I
weren't
think
for
I
that
think it's
Stinger train, I would not give it 10 years because the train is always the expensive part, and they've
yeah.
got a whole train that they can like rehab one while they're holding another, and they can fix micro welds on one while they're using the other. So it's got like a lot of good position in it. Now they might get fed up with it if it starts miscatching a lot or whatever, but I
Yeah,
would say no more than 10 years, but I don't think it's necessarily at risk right now.
no, not at risk. Next question comes from Ben L. Will Kings Island ever get a standout coaster that is consistently in the majority of guest top 10?
Ever is a very long time.
Ever's a long time. And Ben, I'm going to tell you that Kings Island has some standout coasters that are consistently in the majority of guest top 10. We're talking the Beast, we're talking Mystic Timbers, we're talking about Diamondback, Banshee, is up there. So the park does have those standout coasters. They're just not new.
Yeah,
And
but
I think that people
I
forget
think
about
that
that.
maybe his question isn't phrased correctly because I get this a lot from like I remember seeing like a theme parks Brandon video where he makes the point, and I feel like a lot of people feel that way. Like Kings Island has like the Beast and all that stuff, but they don't have like a new like modern coaster that like you have to ride. They don't have that like that top three, shall we say. So yeah, like Mystic Timbers is like a top 10, but I think he's talking about like, you know, the Voyage or Fury 325 or one of those where it's like, oh, Carowinds, yeah, that's where 325 is, or one of those that is synonymous, that's like a new hardware thing. You can argue that with the Beast, and Mystic Timbers, you can make that argument as well. The thing about Mystic Timbers though is you can get a similar experience at other parks, with
You
other GTI
can, you
rides.
can, but the Beast, I mean, there's very few rides out there that are as recognizable as the Beast. you go somewhere and if somebody says where are you from and you know, are you wearing a Kings Island shirt, whatever, and everybody recognizes the Beast. Doesn't matter where you are. You know, you could be in the airport in Los Angeles and people know about the Beast. Everyone's heard about it. So that one, I think they have, and it does rank in the top 10 on just about every, you know, poll that's out there. The Golden Ticket Awards. I mean, it climbed to number 3. It's 45 years old, and it keeps moving up. So number 3.
Mhm.
So with all the track work they've been doing, that could be number 2 or number 1 next year. So I think they kind of, you know, for me, I think when I think of rides that are top 10, you know, and what a majority of the guests, you know, around, not just going to go to Kings Island, but go to theme parks all over the place. I mean, that's on most of their list, the majority of the list. You know, they're going to say the Beast.
Yeah. Um,
But in
I,
terms of
I,
getting like a Fury 325, you know, ever's a long time.
right. I don't see in the foreseeable future them getting anything that's noteworthy of that sort. As you know, I'm sure in 2 years we're getting a family thrill ride, which if it's a coaster means we won't get another coaster for a while, more than likely. Um,
But you and I were talking the other day about that. And we said, what, 2030,
20
2031, 2032
2030
is
to
probably that
32.
range. Yeah, somewhere in that range is when that would likely happen, that there would be that major investment because there's a lot more mouths to feed now in terms of what you have to give, you know, new capital to, the major new capital to, than there was when it was just the Cedar Fair parks.
Yeah, but there's also much more revenue streams and cost savings and stuff. I don't think that's changed a lot, because when we talk about, it like if I spend $100 a week on groceries and you spend $100 a week on groceries, combined, that's $200 a week. But if you combine our incomes, it doesn't change anything. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily know if that's going to affect the cadence. Now it could be for the positive because we do know that the roller coaster manufacturers are willing to wheel and deal, and they'll do 3 or 4 or 5 ride packages. And so that could mean because when it comes down to it, that's where Kings Island comes to an advantage, where it's like you do a 5 ride package with B&M. Well, they're sure as heck not going to put a B&M at Michigan's Adventure or even like maybe even a Valley Fair, but Kings Island might be a good place for that. Now, will it be record breaking or whatever? I don't know. I mean, it depends on the allocation of capital. Probably one will be the big one and the other ones will be smaller. But I think it's going to be every manufacturer vying for Six Flags business in North America at this point. And I think that's going to get them the best possible prices. It probably will work out for the manufacturers too. It'll streamline things quite a bit. But with that being said, standout coaster, that's all relative. If nothing at Kings Island is standout to you, as Don said, the Beast is number 3 right now in the Golden Ticket Awards. So I don't necessarily think that they're completely lacking a standout, but I'm kind of on board with the idea of we really do need like a good big steel coaster. That's the one you have to ride, you know, and again, you can make the argument about like Diamondback, Orion, but you get similar experiences elsewhere. But your mock extreme spinners and things like that would be really cool.
That signature steel coaster.
Something that's visual and, something from like Ride Entertainment or something with a light package and, I don't know. But that's a good question, Ben. I guess it remains to be seen. Just not soon is the answer, but
Right.
cool. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I'm Ryan Sir along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.